Okay, guys, well, we are live. So for those listening at home, welcome to the Dungeon Musings YouTube channel. My name is Kevin Madison, and I will be your friendly... Actually, I won't be your game master. What am I going to be? Maybe as game master. I think there's a different name for it in this. Let's see. We don't want to start off with wrong information. I actually don't know what it's called. We'll find out as we go. Anyway, I'm the person who's not playing a character in this, or an individual character. Today, we were going to carry on with our ongoing AD&D 2nd Edition game playing Legacy of the Crystal Shard, but we're down to 2 players, so as is often, as Brandon has pointed out, as often the case when it's just the 3 of us, is we are going to take a dive into a new game from Osprey Games. And the game for today is R.E. Davis's very interesting Sigil and Shadow RPG. This is billed on the back as a role-playing game of modern horror, occultism, and fantasy. In a world where myth, magic, and urban legend collide with our modern post-truth zeitgeist, players take on the roles of investigators, mystics, occultists, hunters, and monsters, fighting back against the tides of strange and supernatural forces that press against our fragile facade of reality. Do you take a stand against the encroaching shadows, or do you seek their power for yourself? This is something I kind of went on a Twitter stream about because I really liked this when I read it first. And Mo picked up a copy of it as well. And then Brandon mentioned this morning. He was taking a deep dive into Unknown Armies recently. So we all were sort of in that, modern kind of... horror or magic, urban or wainscot fantasy stuff. So yeah, we figured we would take this for a stroll and not waste a good time. Now we don't have there's no character sheet for this. We're using Roll20, but there is no character sheet for it, so we're just going to use the notes or the handouts app just to kind of create the characters the old way, not the digital equivalent of our scratch paper. Let me introduce you who we're playing with though. So first up we got Brandon.
Yeah, I'm Brandon. I don't know much about this game other than I love the genre and I'm here for it. Let's do it.
Nice. And we've got Mo.
Hi, I'm Morris. Like Kevin and Brandon, I'm interested in this area, and I did pick up the game as Jackals was so good, and I thought I'd try some of the other Osprey games. Mm-hmm. They seem to be on a bit of a roll, actually.
I honestly can't think of one of the ones that I've picked up that has not been great. And I've got, I think, all of the ones that are out to date so far. Righteous Blades is really good. Romance of the Paris Lands is good. What's the sci-fi one? The hard... I can't remember what it's called, but that one was good as well. Although I think it suffers from... It came out around the same time as... that indie Mothership, yeah. So it was both 2 games that were kind of occupying the same space, and then Paleo Mythic, that cool game of playing like a fantasy game at the dawn of mankind. Also really, I haven't run that one yet either, but it looks pretty cool. So this game... go ahead.
I was going to say they had that Wuxia game too that looks pretty
That's cool. Righteous Blades.
Oh, Righteous Blades, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And it looks great. Really cool dice mechanic and some neat elements. James from the channel, James actually taking a pretty deep dive into Righteous Blades. So, so one of the things, let's just talk about the Mo. I think you're going to be a little more familiar with this, but and we talked about this a little bit before the we went live, but the game is pretty it's pretty clever in that it's based on the D100 Lite system, which is a very kind of fast and furious game mechanic. There's same dice we're using as you use in like basic role playing or any of those games, or I'm trying to think of another similar ones. I mean, Jackals as well, but Jackals is a different branch of sort of the BRP inspired games. This one is very rules minimal, and it's also designed in such a way to be very flexible, so we can play a lot of different types of games in this. And since we've only got the 2 characters that we're making, I thought that we would discuss kind of what type of game we're going to play here. The types of things you can play are, you know, everything from like supernatural, where you're like relatively human characters that are hunting, you know, unnatural things, to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where you're a little more, you know, unnatural. You got supernatural abilities that you're using to fight the supernatural, to like Angel, or, you know, Constantine, or I mean, X-Files, kind of, with a little more magic stuff in it. So what are we thinking? Are you guys, the character types in the game are broadly divided into two kinds. There are, what are they called? The Illuminated, which are generally like relatively normal characters that are taking up a fight against the darkness. Or you can play the Shadowed. And the Shadowed are characters that are afflicted by the darkness in some way. They might have a demonic possession. They might be a vampire. They, you know, might have be descended from demons or whatever thing. They might be cursed with a magical kind of affliction. What kind of game do we think we want to play, guys?
Ooh. Trying to figure out which one. I had an idea for a kind of a cultist character, but I don't know where that fits in this. It looks like it can go either way.
Yeah, like it depends on whether you are. So let's talk about the kind of broad archetypes. They're called castings in it. So the castings for Illumination are the Seeker, the Hunter, the Protector, the Keeper. So that's broadly. So, and it's really what it affects is sort of your something called your drive, which is, I believe, a way you get back the narrative metacurrency for the game. And then the Shadowed are the Afflicted, the Devoted, the Host, and the Ravenous. So do any of those help kind of flesh out where you're, you know, what type of character you're thinking, Brandon? Like an occultist, someone from the normal world who dabbles?
Yeah, I was actually, the Seeker fits pretty much square on with what I was thinking.
Okay,
but I'm flexible if Mo wants to go to.
Mo, what are you thinking?
Well, I did think, I had a quick look who we started, and I was thinking possibly a hunter, although the what's the one? It's the not the Illuminated, the Devoted. But sort of like having it devoted to an aspect of the modern world, a bit like American Gods.
Okay.
Ooh,
Sort of like I was thinking of Gillian Anderson's media character.
Okay. I've only seen, you have to describe what that is. I've seen season 1 and I kind of gave up on it because...
Yeah, basically it's the new
me.
Gods.
It's
so
a witch?
one for technology. The idea is there's new gods deriving from technology.
The Devoted are, the way it's described is you're going to have a patron. So a conscious manifestation of an idea, belief, or concept. And you're thinking something that is like a god or a spirit of technology?
Yeah, I mean, there's a thing right to the end. Some are even devoted to visages portraying pop culture icons, both living and dead.
Yeah.
To be devoted to serve the will of the visage, either who worship, submission, oath, or pact. Yeah, I quite like that idea because it would be nice to have one of each, I think, to try it out.
So again, like what is it that you're actually going after? I don't understand. Is it a technology, like a thing, or technology spirit, or what? Not in the book, Mo. Just what's the description that you're thinking of? I don't have that frame of reference.
Pop culture.
Yeah.
Well, it's not pop culture in general. I mean, specifically, Mo. Like, what is it specifically that you're?
I think I get it.
You're going after.
Yeah.
What is the pop culture? The element of pop culture? It can't just be all pop culture. Because remember, like a devoted is someone who is devoted to a specific patron. What is the patron that you're connected with? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I think it's a bit more complex character. So we just go with a hunter.
No. Like, I think it's
it's an interesting idea, but I think hunter's going to be simpler.
Well, the thing is, I still don't understand what the idea is. So, what is the idea that you're trying to shoot for? Let's just because if I agree, it would be neat to have one of each. And I just maybe it's my, I'm just not quite picking up on what you're putting down here.
Okay, we say he's the patron is. Should we say science fiction and fantasy television?
Interesting. Okay. Okay.
I still feel that that's too nebulous. I think it needs to be something a little more, because like we need to be able to, because like what is, well, hold on, maybe I'm overthinking this. So
I think, the media. So
because like the way to describe the drive here, like the devoted may petition their patron for a geas, a task appointed by the patron. So like a patron is something you're going to have to interact with, and just if it's not something that is concrete, like what I take their reference portraying pop culture icons. That's it's not pop culture in general. It's specific.
No, pick an
things.
icon.
Yeah, like so that's what I'm struggling with, Mo. Is that I like the idea. Well, I think like it's cool that the idea that there is more of a modern worship. It's just that it can't be something as it can't be like a nebulous concept. It's got to be something that you're interacting with, because that's part of what the devoted's thing is. Like if you're serving, like let's say like I don't know. Yeah, because like I mean, sci-fi does it's got such a wide thing.
So maybe just pick one show and say that's the.
Could be, yeah. Like I mean, it could be that. I'm just trying to see like.
And the idea, and I think if I understand, Bo, it's like the idea, just like in media and American Gods, it's like the characters in the show kind of like come out and like talk to you.
Yeah, and that's part of it.
You're
like,
watching it.
You need to have something that you're interacting with, and it can be the agglomeration of that stuff. You know.
Yeah. That's what media is in American Gods.
And
I think that's what Mo was getting at.
If we want to try and personify that, like if what you're thinking is not like just sci-fi shows, but like sci-fi fandom, you know, that would be an interesting thing, because it would be a mix of, you know, devotion and toxicity and whatnot like that. If you think of what modern sci-fi fandom is, that's a pretty scary fucking altar to worship at. Right?
Okay.
Because I don't want to like I want to be able to model your idea. I think the game is flexible with that. It's just that we need to have it in a way that we know what your thing is going to be, right? And like maybe it's you know, if your god is fanboy or fangirl or something like that, you know, then your expressions of whatever your relationship with that patron is can then be all through these, you know, these weird sci-fi ways, or the sci-fi pop culture reference ways. But we need to have a patron that it can actually we can put a face on.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, Mo?
Yeah.
I think it works. Like, yeah, like kind of we'll go with the American God way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The voice on the TV that that comes out and talks to you through it, and it's.
Does that sound like
are you going with fandom?
Don't want to force anything on you. Like, is that what you're thinking, or
maybe make it that it's more the old school true fan, so written science fiction.
Okay.
It's probably pushing back against some of the more modern side of things.
Okay.
So are you the sad puppy?
Oh no! I mean,
yeah. There's also like
1940s, 1950s.
There are definitely some.
Okay.
Yeah, that's. If I'm thinking of sort of the extremes of like that fandom, that's gonna be pretty darn toxic as well.
Yeah, well, say like, I'm more on Charlie Stoss's side than the dead puppies or whatever they're called.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it could, and that could be a very. I mean, it could make a complex.
I like it.
Thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So and it could be like a a character that looks very much like Isaac Asimov, but is like very irascible and.
Yeah, actually, that would work.
I like it.
Sort of the aspect of the old gods, say.
Sure.
We'll call them like Asimov, Heinlein.
I like it.
Herbert.
I like it a lot.
Like these uppity new the uppity new things with all these Korean shows.
I got this vision in my head.
2 minutes staring at each other scenes.
I've got this image in my head now of like an old, dumpy guy wearing a lycra suit, like a 50s sci-fi style thing, but like doesn't fit properly anymore.
Like the aliens in Galaxy Quest. The ones that wear the suit, but they're actually all.
Love it.
Sure.
Okay, I like this idea a lot.
That works
yeah.
awesome. Okay, so we know what our castings are going to be. So we got a Seeker and we've got a Devoted. So next thing we got to do, I posted in chat mode. You've got a handout here for keeping track of your character.
Yeah.
And then we have. Let's see here. Let's see. The character, the stats are I've posted into the chat as well too, and then I also posted the skills afterwards. So your stats are Strength, Dex, Logic, and Willpower, and your skills are Arcana, Combat, Education, Investigation, Larceny, Medicine, Social, Survival, and Technical. And some of those have permutations of them. Let's see here. So first, we also have to determine a background before you became involved with this. So let's take a look here. Do you guys want to roll your background, or you want to determine your background?
I think rolling is fun.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay for rolling.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So why don't you each give us, I'm on page 27 of the book, why don't you give us a D100 roll, please?
Okay. Okay.
All right. So, Mo, activist. Okay, so activist was your background, and then, you know what? Why don't we do it this way, guys? We'll roll twice. We'll do it Warhammer Fantasy 2E style. Roll twice, and you'll pick one of them.
Okay.
Okay. This, gives you a little more agency. Politician was yours, Brandon. First one, and then Mo, your next one. So you got Mo, activist or business professional, and Brandon, politician or business professional.
I'm going to say business professional probably works.
Okay.
This one a little bit more.
And what about you, Mo?
I don't know. Business professional also appeals because maybe he actually worked in the industry.
Sure.
And he's got so into it, he now has the guy, the old guy in the silver suit talks to him through the telephone.
There are options you can take within that as well too. That'll distinguish. So if you both became business professionals, there's
Yeah, actually, politician works better for me. I just that works.
Yep. All right. So neither of you rolled doubles, so we're not rolling for an oddity.
Okay, I like that. Oh, I love this.
Okay, and then next up, so the backgrounds provide a perk and determine your starting lifestyle. So for
can we roll a bone?
What's that?
Can we roll a bone to get an oddity? That is
you can spend a bone. So you start off with 5 bones, which is the narrative meta currency for it. So you can spend that if you do want to get an oddity. Mm-hmm. Would you like to?
Yeah, let's do that just to see how those work.
Okay, so let's just maybe roll a 1d10 then. You just threw a dice at my head. A 7. 7th child.
Oh, that's works, yeah.
Okay. And the oddity, let's see here. Folklore and magic exist in the world, and a 7th child is specifically charmed in a way that makes them especially adept at using gifts. A character with this oddity gains 1 extra gift when they take the first level of the mysticism skill. This can be held onto or unlocked later should they not take a level of mysticism at character creation. Okay. Then you guys also get a... so your lifestyle rating for, I think both is upper middle class. No, upper class for the politician. So your upper class, or 4, Brandon, and yours is upper middle class, Mo, at 3. And then the perks you have to choose from, Brandon, are well-to-do or skill training in either social or education.
Okay.
And the way that's...
I'm going to go with probably skill training and education. That seems to fit more with what I'm going with. Okay.
And then for you, Mo, business sense, hard bargain, or well-to-do as the perk.
And let me have a look at perks.
Perks are on page 42, going forward.
So business sense, and then hard bargain.
Okay.
I think well-to-do.
Well-to-do, okay. So +1 to your lifestyle level, so you will both be upper class.
Yeah.
Okay.
This fits.
Excellent. So then, next up will be your ability scores. So strength, dex, logic, and willpower. And each of them starts at 40%. And then you have 10 advancements, each of which gives you +5% to distribute across the 4 ability scores. None can start higher than 70. And if you just want to do a quick allocation, 60, 55, 50, and 45 are one, sample spread. So that's each of them starts at 40, and then you can distribute 10 plus 5% advancements among them.
What do you say? 60, 55?
60, 55, 50, and 45 is one way of distributing that. You can't have anything higher than 70.
So what's the spread? That was 60.
I'll put it in chat.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Sorry.
Sorry. Got all but one of the numbers.
There you go.
Okay, thank you.
The art in here is pretty freaking cool, too.
All right, I'll go with that. All right.
Okay.
So will is the mysticism stat, isn't it? Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Yeah. Okay.
Wait, which one's the mysticism stat? Willpower?
Mysticism is will, yeah.
Okay, that works.
Okay.
We'll go with that.
Okay. Then, have you guys got your stats assigned?
Yep.
Okay. Mo, you got your stats assigned?
Yeah.
Okay, so then we got to check for damage bonus. Is your strength or dex for you guys your score of 60?
No.
Dex for me at 60.
At 60, so you get +1 damage, Mo.
Mm-hmm.
Then for skills, whoopsies, you begin trained in 2 skills. And then you got your background maybe get more. Cannot spend bones to get more training than that.
Okay.
Okay, so did either of you pick a? Oh, you picked
Education for me.
education for yours. Yeah. Okay. So, if you guys did pick a skill with your background, you now can raise 2 skills to level 1, which is plus 10%. Each level in your skill gives you another plus 10% to the roll. So, skills are on page 37. And the skills in this are quite broad. It's a very short skill list, which is kind of nice. Oh, and a neat little mechanic in here that I remember is the way that they do advantage is that when you roll a D100, you can just choose to take either of the. You can flip it, right? So like, your roll would be the last 2 rolls you guys made. If you had advantage with it, it could be 29 or it could be 92.
Yep. Unknown Army style.
Okay.
Well, everything just seems to be coming together.
Yeah. It's all coming up with roses.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Oh.
So did you pick your 2 skills, guys?
So I guess it's 2 in addition to what I got for my background, right?
Correct.
Okay. Let's go
Although
with...
the one you got from your background, you can choose to raise that to level 1 as well.
That's okay. He wasn't that good at that job.
Okay.
I don't know. Let's go with... Yeah, that works.
What are you
I'm
thinking?
gonna go with Arcana and Investigation, I guess.
Okay. And Mo, how about you? What 2 skills did you decide to raise?
Well, the 2 I get trained is combat and mysticism, and then I can.
Well, hold on. Why do you think you get combat and mysticism?
You begin trained 0% in 2 skills.
Right, and then raise 2 of your trained skills to level 1.
Okay.
We're sort of skipping ahead because you're going to have... did you get another trained skill from your background?
No, you don't for business.
Okay, so then that means those 2 skills are going to be raised to level 1. So which 2 skills did you raise to level 1?
Well, in that case, combat and mysticism.
Okay. All right, and then next thing is special features. You guys chose your perk already, and you can spend a bone of the 5 you start with to take another perk if you like. You're not restricted by the ones on the list, so if there is something that you have...
So we can pick a perk from...
So the bones, I'm a little confused about. Do we get 1 bone just to use for character creation? Is that how that works?
No, you have 5 bones, and you can spend them over the
5.
course of character creation, but it becomes your narrative
okay.
meta currency in the game.
Okay. I don't know. I like narrative meta currency, so let's.
How long on that? Okay.
Well, I'm gonna pick one of these. Let's go with it.
Yeah, take a look at the perks, and then... Well, did you pick your perk already from your background?
Yeah, that was well-to-do.
Okay, so do you want to spend another bone to get a second perk?
Is that just from the background, or can I pick some
no,
of the
that's
others?
anyone's. Perks start on page 42.
Oh, what's it? I'm looking at the wrong one. Sorry.
So for those listening at home, there's a distinction in the game between the talents and the perks and your skills. Perks are sort of like little minor things that you get that have... and oddities are different. Not talents, forgive me. The perks, the powers, and the oddities are all separate kind of parts of the character creation. I'm making it sound much more complicated than it really is. It's very straightforward. So what are we thinking?
I'll take Eloquent as a perk.
Eloquent,
I
nice.
think I'll stay with I am, actually, because I've already spent some of my meta currency, so I think I'll...
Sure. Okay, so Eloquent, advantage on social checks to persuade others through diplomacy and rhetoric. Love it.
Yeah. That's politician coming through.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Then you guys are either of you guys trained in mysticism?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And then you are... Okay. Hold on here.
Ow.
I think there is a restriction for shadowed. Okay, so if you're trained in mysticism, you automatically get the power Sixth Sense, allowing you to perceive auras and sense nearby spirits. And then do you guys have it at level 1 as well?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, so I would give it because I just have Arcana. Would that not be mysticism?
No, mysticism is a separate. There's only.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have mysticism.
Okay, so if you got a level of Arcana, you must choose a focused Arcanum to study, which is one of the fundamentals. So this is your magic. Arcana is the actual magic.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll get into that.
Okay.
That's a little later in the book.
Okay,
The Arcana, you can look at, starts on page 121. It's honestly very familiar, if you are familiar with the Ars Magica sort of pairing of like word and technique or form and technique.
Yep.
It's
Totally.
very, very similar to that.
Totally.
Okay, and then Mo, so you're going to get Sixth Sense, Mo, from Mysticism, and then you also, let's see here. You get 1 gift. The gifts more starting on page 82. And if you've got level 1 in mysticism, you also get to pick one extra mysticism ability. What are you thinking?
Get 6 Sense puddle.
So it starts on page 82. Just and the for those at home, the gifts, the game divides into basically like 3 broad categories of kind of unnatural powers. There's mysticism, which is things like sixth sense, healing, enhance, telepathy, psychometry, projection, sort of like inbuilt powers kind of stuff. The second category are spells or arcana. It's got a very cool free-form kind of magic system that you use. And then the third is your shadowed abilities, which are those who are playing shadowed characters get manifestations, which are the powers that you gain from your unnatural connection.
Okay.
I think I'll go with Danger Sense.
Danger Sense, okay, cool. Okay. That's very cool. Yeah. Okay. So write down Danger Sense under your mysticism abilities, and then.
Oh, so that was the extra one was from my 7th child. Oddity, which is that, or do I get the extra one from the 7th child as well?
Hold on. What's
page 33?
33. Okay. So as a 7th child. Oh yes, you can take 1 extra as well too. Then right.
Okay. Let me...
And then what do you?
Okay, that works.
So is it the I kind of left you on your own to navigate the spellcasting stuff there, Brandon? But
I think I got this.
You got it. Okay.
I think
enhance.
And enhance is the other one you're taking, Mo?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's see
So
here.
I think I get 1 Arcana.
Yes. So the Arcana.
I will go with Arrow as that one.
Okay.
Because my guy's about language, so this works.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they've got.
I'll save the whole details until we get further on the character creation.
Yeah.
I'm excited for how it interacts with Mo's character.
Oh yeah. All right. And speaking of Mo's character, so shadowed characters will want to select their manifestations. Let's see here. Remember how that works. Manifestation is your unnatural abilities. So there's an awful lot of game crammed into a relatively small. Like the book itself is only about that big, and it's one of these digest-sized ones from Osprey. So. Okay, so characters at character creation, shadows take 2 manifestations as well as 1 burden. And you may acquire an additional manifestation at the cost of spending a bone, or taking 1 extra burden to a maximum of 4 manifestations. So your manifestations start on page 93. Do you have those? Yeah, and then your burdens are on 102. So you get 2 manifestations and 1 burden. And then you can choose to spend a bone to get an extra manifestation, and you can choose to take an extra burden to get an extra manifestation. So what are you thinking? And this is going to relate to your like old school sci-fi patron.
Okay, yeah. In that case, I will take Compel, which is basically the Doctor Who paper thing. So you can suggest things like, this is my ID badge.
Okay.
So that sort of works with a science fiction thing. What else?
Yeah.
Okay.
Gift.
You got 1 more for free, and then you get 1 burden. here's an example
the
of spending
paranormal attack,
bone. Oh, one sec, hold on. An example of spending a bone under compels. You can spend a bone for more complex suggestions, such as go home and shower, leave work early, and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
Sorry, Mo, what were you saying?
I think what was it? Paranormal attack.
Okay. How do you think that manifests?
So,
Like, is it a ray gun you use?
it would be so. Shocking attack. Yeah, let's do shocking attack, and we'll say it's like the Zat Nicotel from Stargate. You know, the Zapper thing.
I have no idea what that is. I've never watched Stargate.
But it's basically the stunning weapon.
Okay.
And then the burden.
So this is close combat.
Yes.
So it's not going to be a ray gun or something like that. It'll be like a touch.
All right.
Like a Vulcan
Parts of the body.
death pinch
right.
or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think because it seems like I mean I haven't read a lot of.
So and then the thing is, like a reminder again, like the game itself, it's cool that we're going with a sci-fi patron, but the game is a fantasy and horror game, not a sci-fi game. So you'll want to
maybe I think lifesteal.
Lifesteal. How so?
Ooh, interesting.
How's that fit with
I'm trying
classic
to think
sci-fi?
of what old school.
Oh, let me think about this.
Yeah, how does that?
Can we say it's a sort of like a Republic era serial, and it's like a Pamo that's
So
one of
again,
the
Mo,
bad
let's just
guys,
back up here. I'm fine with the sci-fi stuff with it, but it's not a sci-fi game.
Oh, okay.
Right? It's a
maybe we'll
horror
say
and a
that's
Mo,
from.
hold on, Mo. Please just listen,
Yeah, okay.
listen to what I'm saying. It's a fantasy and a horror RPG. So we need to make this fit in the context. Like you're playing a shadowed character, which means that you are losing part of yourself to this connection with the patron. This is not a happy, benevolent connection. You're going to get a burden that has irrevocably changed you as part of that. This is not a.
Well, if we're going from classic, lifesteal might work with, say, a vampire from the classic fantasy.
Well,
right, but Mo, it's got to connect with your thematically with your patron, though. Like, do you understand what I'm saying here?
Yeah, let me see.
I'm trying to because I mean I'm thinking like with lifesteal, something about like the cost of I don't know like being so invested with something so old has some sort of like mystical significance with that. I don't know. I'm trying to go with something like that.
I think what we might need. I mean, what you might want to do is find something else that fits more with the concept instead of just going with an attack. Because like
lifesteal's weird.
The way that the examples that they've got in this too, like I'm happy to try and stretch this to fit the concept too. But like this again, like it's a horror fantasy game, so the manifestation has to make sense in the context of that game, and just trying to work an idea in. You know, this is a little bit of a square hole round peg situation.
Well, I mean, one thing I could say is like with that, it's like if you have a science like being so invested, what you're talking about, like with like fandom, you're so invested in this, it kind of does figuratively take away one's life as you while away hours on a old. Why
don't we do this? Let's think about.
Seems to
let's think about your burden first, Mo.
Yeah, let's
okay.
do burden, I think, first, and then
burden's on 102.
That's a good idea.
Because then we can think of how this negatively impacts on you, and then we can kind of go back and see how does the negative impact. Like, is this a nagging connection you've got? I mean, the shadowed cost, like the any character who's a shadowed character, like they have lost part of themselves, whether because of infection or because of whatever. And this is something like, does this thing show up at night and demand things of you, or are you exhausted? Like exhausting is an example they've got here. The dark power that fuels your character's manifestation is constantly diminishing, forcing you to push towards your drive more frequently than others. So, like, the drive in the Shadow, Devoted, your drive is servitude. Devoted may recover a bone anytime they devote a scene to service on behalf of their patron. This may come in the form of offerings, prayer, study, proselytization, or meditation. Like, a devoted character, you really are devoted to this thing. So your character's life is going to largely revolve around this old, school sci-fi manifestation.
Well, how about binding? And we'll say that's his collection of vintage.
Okay, so then to give you context, like what the binding rule is there for, that's for like vampires having to return to their crypt at night. If you don't do that, you may be incapable of rest or recovery. So your character is going to be a desperate nerd trying to get back to his, vintage, phaser in a box still.
I can like that.
Yeah, just like it's worth.
Yeah.
Remembering.
He has to get to his den to like recharge.
And I don't want to
that.
I don't want to make it. Well, for one, I don't want you to play a character that you're not going to enjoy playing, and then two, like we don't want to be making it's not going to be. It's an easy swipe at kind of the nerd community to try and say like you need to get back to your mom's basement where your stuff is, kind of stuff, and we don't want to just playing for easy laughs for our own community.
No, but
well, how about haunted?
Constantly followed by ethereal entities, a specific ghost that just played by specters in general. So
that could work in terms of like the media thing where you can't walk by a TV set without something in there talking to
the old
you.
joke.
Like,
someone is wrong on the internet.
Exactly.
It could be that.
Yeah, let's say haunted.
Okay.
And we'll say that if someone is making a really stupid,
Well, this is okay. This is not contingent on that. Like this is gonna once per session.
Just say haunted.
Once per session, whatever haunting character, whatever is haunting the character will directly torment them. Staying focused on task requires succeeding in a free will resistance check. Otherwise, you are dazed for the remainder of the scene or the encounter. So it's gonna be something that intrudes on you. Like the whole thing with the shadows is like the burdens are a pain in the ass. To deal with, on par with like involuntary transformation, like a werewolf, or having to go back to your lair. Like shadowed characters come at a cost. If you want a character that does not come at a cost, that's what the illuminated characters are.
Yeah, we'll go with that, I think.
With haunted?
With haunted.
Okay. All right.
I like it.
So haunted is your burden. So with that in mind, what do we think is your other manifestation? You got compel thus far. That is, I guess, persuading people to your side. No doubt from time spent arguing on the internet. I'm not sure. Like with the concept that you're playing with, I'm struggling with finding that paranormal attack makes sense.
Yeah.
Unless you're representing it as like lost life that people have to give up to these kind of things. So it could be like.
I don't know. How does that manifest as an attack then?
You just age, I guess, is how I would picture it. Like he's in front of your, but
that he's sucking life from other things, but that like there's not a vampiric part of fandom. Fandom is isolating.
It depends on how you're. I mean, I think there can be something vampiric about it.
I disagree. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
But what do you think, Mo? Is there another one that you think will fit thematically with the character you've got?
Maybe that means I need to have a healthier relationship to my fandoms. Yeah. That's how I see it.
I don't know, terrifying. Able to harness the inner darkness. Because if I'm haunted, maybe I can play off that I'm haunted and that's my darkness, and I can push it out to other people. As an action, the character may make a will plus terrifying check to inflict a frightened or surprised condition.
Okay. And how does that connect thematically to your sci-fi idea, the idea of connecting with old sci-fi? Like, I'm wondering, this would be a lot easier fit if you just went with a supernatural thing, a more direct. You know, I mean, we can continue on this sort of path with this esoteric idea.
I kind of like it, but
it's just that it's a lot easier fit with the other ones. You know, and again, like, I'm not sure how this fits in with occult horror as well. So if you can come up with an idea where how a Terrify fits thematically, I think, Mo, how about we do this? Let's set the book aside for a second. Okay? And just think of what is it about this character. Let's talk a little bit about how this, like, what this looks like in the game. So your character, like, what do you see the types of adventures and things that he would be doing? And how does that relate to his connection with this supernatural, this old school sci-fi manifestation?
Well, I kind of think maybe he's on the lookout for weird science or weird stuff in general.
So you're saying he's a politician?
No, that's me. I'm the
that's you.
politician.
You're the politician. So your guy is an upper class, because you've chose to purchase up that thing. He's an upper class businessman who is obsessed with.
Yeah, maybe he's trying to find stuff to make products or things he can sell or try and monetize.
Okay, so what's the game look like then? Like what you've described is honestly a villain for an anti-capitalist sci-fi thing.
I like it though. Well, this could work. Think about it.
So what is this? What would your character be looking like in the game? How would he be involved with other supernatural things? Is this a character you would be interested in playing? Like, does that strike you as something that would be fun? I think what we need to figure out is what this character is going to look like in the course of play, and that will help you figure out what manifestations make sense, how the burden makes sense as well too.
So, well, I guess on that question, like, how is this? Are we expected to engage in investigations, or like what is the assumed mode of play in this?
Well, there isn't necessarily an assumed style of play. It comes from the drives of your characters. Like, it's a very character-focused thing. Your character's drive is seeker. Right. Yeah. So yours is you recover a bone anytime you make a new paranormal discovery hitherto unknown to them. Whenever they unearth lost lore, stumble across an ancient relic, find a better understanding of the monsters they're investigating, or encounter a new paranormal entity, the seeker is motivated to see how deep the rabbit hole goes. So you've got an inbuilt drive for why you want to go forward. What Mo's drive is, because he's devoted, is to expand the influence of his patron, and do the whims of his patron. So that's what it could
be really sinister in terms of like taking out figures of new science fiction. Yeah. People who dare But
because
either that or have you read William Gibson's Slipstream?
No.
So he's really old school. So he wants to try and find stuff that would make the world more like Golden Age stuff. See what I mean? So he's trying to like find, I wouldn't say flying jetpacks and stuff like that. So he's trying to bring stuff from the old school into the current world. If that works, I'm not explaining that.
Again, but what's the so again, like, so the game is a horror and fantasy game. Let's first think about what the relationship is in that context. So what a devoted is to a demon, to a dark god, to another thing. That's what the game is modeling, and that's the nature of the relationship between these things. You're getting your power, but you as a shadowed, but it's from something else. So that's how sinister and how powerful your relationship has to be with your patron.
Okay. So he's like psychologically breaking people who are like scientists who are not creating the world.
Let's stop talking about.
I've got an idea here.
Let's stop talking about the character, like the individual character that Mo's playing. What's his patron like? Because the patron's got to have some motivations. And if what you're saying, Mo, is that the patron is going to want to push old school things, what does that look like? Like, what does that actually mean?
Well, I think the patron is maybe trying to almost manipulate me into maybe finding things that man should not know. The classic, there are things that humans shouldn't really deal with, which is a classic 50s sort of thing. So maybe I'm interested in finding stuff from that period, but maybe my patron is effectively trying to get me to discover things that might have a negative effect on the world.
So what do you mean by, like, do you mean more of like a Lovecraftian thing where it's trying to push you into
possibly Lovecraftian, or maybe the classic horror where someone's manipulated to find something, and then I mean that sort of Lovecraftian, there's some other thing trying to manipulate me, and it's the play between myself and that.
Can I make a suggestion? So let's scrap the whole American Gods idea. Okay, because I think like what an old school, it's hard to put into clear words what that specific goal is. However, to not lose your classic sci-fi thing, what if it is kind of a the type of like dominating alien you see in classic sci-fi, like a brain in a jar, or like a bit of like obviously that's fabric that looks ridiculous, undulating goo or something like that, the invader from planet X or whatever. What if that's the patron, as opposed to just being because like what you're describing, Mo, there is games where that would fit for the concept where like Mage the Ascension is about like the war for reality and whatnot, and trying to impose an older version of technology on the world. That sort of makes sense in that game, but there are mechanics that sort of support that kind of stuff in that game. In this game, a devoted is an unhealthy and negative connection with its patron, right? So if your patron is pushing you, like you say, into darker areas or whatnot, your character may understand it as this like cornball kind of sci-fi thing, in the 50s sci-fi context, or older even sci-fi context, like you said, Republic serial context, but it's actually something that's pushing you into a darker area.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Does that fit your concept?
Yeah.
You don't sound convinced, Mo.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think what that might come out as, because I'm thinking of what classic. Let's
go back to your powers then.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, because like you can think of, and I'm thinking of like a lot of the sci-fi stuff that was featured on like Mystery Science Theater, right? Yeah. There's a I can't remember what the like Terror from 3000 or something like that. There's one of the episodes they featured this film that features a character coming back from. They think it's a time travel machine, but it's actually going to the future and bringing back these horrifically mutated things. And with a touch, they kill things. They actually do it's like radiation damage or whatnot. I mean, it's 50 sci-fi radiation damage, but like if that's your character may be manifesting. If you want to go with that, like the life draining power, that electric touch power, you may be thinking like your character might be thinking at first, oh, it's just sci-fi. It's just it's some sci-fi thing, and then you're realizing after the fact, like, oh fuck, I'm killing people, or oh fuck, I'm actually draining their life, and the things that this thing is getting you to do, which you might interpret as being part of this old school, fantasy, like exploring an abandoned line of science, may be the way that you understand it, but the truth of it might be something much more dark and supernatural.
Yeah, I'm thinking that sort of period, possibly even the original Thing.
Yeah.
Because that was an advanced thing that crashed.
Yeah.
And maybe instead of just, let's go with that sort of thing, and it's trying to manipulate me into doing bad things, or to have some longer term plan, which we can.
World domination, that's
classic.
Or things that he just, things that he doesn't quite understand, right? Like it may be asking him to go and like obtain, a gallon of a specific weird chemical, and that he needs to have that. Then he needs to do something else with it, and then it's that things that seem inconsequential or in fitting with this weird sci-fi, and your abilities may be again, like we don't need to have logical explanations for them. They can be in the context of those like Republic serial stuff, but the manifestation of it is much darker, and So Mo, do you want to still go with that paranormal attack?
Let's go with that.
All right, so it was a bit of a struggle we got there. Does that fit? Does that sound like a character that you would be interested in playing, Mo?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think the name of your patron is then? You can probably give him a really weird sci-fi, Zygon or whatever.
Well, the other one is obviously the Vorlons, who are manipulating the humans.
Do you really think that the good, a good classic sci-fi fan like you would follow something from the 90s? Come on.
Yeah.
I guess the 90s is 30 years ago now, so really.
Yeah,
I know.
Don't forget I am old enough to actually go for that, but maybe my character isn't. But that sort of effect. So that's the power. So we've got one, didn't we? We had.
Yeah. Well, and I love it too. Like, actually, if you're going with this, sci-fi villain or sci-fi monster, thing, your what do you call it? Your compel ability. It could be like just that, like in 50 sci-fi, where like suddenly there's Vaseline on the lens, so it's got that weird like haze, and it has a Dutch angle to it, and you're just by the force of your gaze, you're forcing them to to turn.
Yeah, that would work with the lifesteal attack then.
Absolutely. No, your lifesteal attack might be there may be a something that is transforming you. Now,
love it.
Are you still okay with haunted? And haunted could, instead of it being the what do you call it? The like literally ghosts and whatnot. It could be just like the psychic manifestation of your overlord or whatever.
Yeah. Things get covered in slime.
Either that or dreadful feature, maybe.
Yeah.
I take on the appearance of one possessing me. So whatever the villain is, I start to transform.
Okay.
People see that as the
anytime you spend a bone.
Yeah.
That's cool. So what are you thinking? Like, does your skin change color? Do your eyes glow?
I think maybe glowing eyes, and
are the lights dim and the area gets windy even indoors?
I like the idea of actually physically changing somehow, because that would sort of be like my patron sort of like trying to push his.
Now, as a devil's bargain here too, remember, if you choose to take 2 burdens, you get to take an extra manifestation.
Eyes and tentacles.
Because I'm not sure what how you picture your abilities, but like blink could be a pretty cool addition to your slate if you have both haunted and dreadful. And that's the stop filming, move the actor, then start filming again. So you could have disappear in one location, appear in another.
Yeah, so haunted, and so that's bone, isn't it, for that?
No. If you take two
Oh no,
burdens...
yeah, let's do that then. Haunted and dreadful for the burden, so I get an extra manifestation.
Okay. I just suggested Blink, but you got any of the ones that you think you were talking about terrifying before too. That absolutely fits with what.
Yeah.
And in keeping with your business thing too, like you could, it's entirely possible that you're just pushing your like the development of certain products and whatnot, like you said, in a certain direction to serve your your sci-fi master. Sorry, Brandon, we're spending a shit ton of time on most
I'm
definitely will spend the same on yours as well. So let's talk about your character.
Okay.
So let's see here. That was the shadowed characters. You didn't take any levels in what do you call it? In mysticism, but you did take
Arcanum. Yeah, Arcanum.
Okay. Arcanum. Now let's see here. Is there anything else you can spend bones on?
Yeah, let's try to figure that out. I mean, I just have basic skill training in Arcana, Education, Investigation, and can't I get those to level 1 or something?
Yes, you can get them to level 1. You can pick 2 skills to level 1.
Okay, let's do that. Let's do Arcana.
Sorry, which ones do you have training in?
Arcana, Education, and Investigation.
Yes, so one of those from your background, right?
Yeah, Education's from the background. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you can pick one, 2 of those to raise to level 1, which will be plus 10%.
All right, I did. Yeah, so Arcana and Investigation.
Okay, and then the Arcana. So the way that I should have loaded it. There's the way that you create magic in this is through the kind of improvisation, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
There's a visual guide here for kind of how to help you figure out talking through what makes up.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. It'll definitely take a little getting used to.
What page is that on?
That's on page 114.
Okay, I'll find that.
So the way, and there's 2 kinds of sorcery. Let's see here.
Do I need to take like separate skills in one of those like methods, like shape, attract, reveal, enhance? How does this? Because when you described it as Ars Magica, I think if that's how that works there.
Yeah.
So.
No, because so what it is those things, the shape, mend, whatever, that is just helping to figure out what your... Let's go to... I'm on spellcasting summary here on 113. The first thing an occultist needs to do in order to cast a spell is declare their intent. So yours is like, let's say you've got arrow, a wind powerful enough to slam the door shut. Precise declarations and specific, straightforward goals with clear triggers work the best. Saying, I want people to like me is muddy and too broad. I want anyone who shakes my hand to be instantly charmed by me at the gala tonight works a lot better. From there, we begin putting the puzzle pieces together, figuring out how to realize the declared intent, both in the narrative of the story and the mechanics of the game. These pieces are called keys, and keywords that act as building blocks to how the spell behaves. The 4 types of keys are effects, what the spell actually achieves, the method, how it's delivered, the form, how it's cast, and the catalyst, the physical component or ingredient symbolic of the arcanum being used to fuel, create, or ignite the spell. So, and that's where we get to that inverted thing. So, to slam the door, that would probably be a attract repel, or attract or repel effect. The method is projected, bound, or charged.
Yeah, what is
so let's see here.
So what does that mean?
That's on page 117. Project means the spell immediately erupts and launches forth from the catalyst upon completion of the casting, instantly seeking targets. Bind is when you're binding it into something, and then it triggers when you use it. continue over time. So it like a lasting barrier. Like the example they give is a guy who has a protective barrier. Anyone wearing this ring, and then charge is cast with the intent to be fired off at a later time. So if you want to have like when you open it, you like
contingencies.
Yeah. Flick a match, it's going to go. So let's say it's project.
Sure.
Okay, and then form, it's either an invocation where you're doing a ceremony with ritual magic, or through channeling, which is just on the fly kind of magic. So invoking a spell.
Shut a door, I want to channel it.
Yeah,
probably.
so invoking are treated as extended actions with difficulty determined by the guide based on the spell grade and other considerations. The way invocations are performed will vary from caster to caster. And there's 3 grades of it: low grade, mid grade, high grade. Low grade are often called folk magic or hedge magic. These are discrete and low-key spells that are often dismissed as pure luck or total coincidence, so that's probably what this would be. Mid magic is called thaumaturgy, meaning it appears to create miraculous effects out of little or nothing. You must be trained to at least level 1 in the appropriate arcanum to perform this magic. Although more disruptive than low-grade magic, it still creates effects in chorus with the catalyst and foci that can be reasoned with by onlookers. A candle may be charged to use like a small flamethrower. An antique fan may be waved to conjure a burst of air, or a modified mobile device may be used to take over a car's onboard electronics. And then high magic is fantastic or highly disruptive. This is often called wizardry. It's the bonkers stuff that every fantasy buff aspires to. Now, normally you need to have... what level is it? Skill level 3 to do this, but I think you can actually spend bones to jack up your I
don't. Yeah, I might jack up my level to level 1 so I can at least do the mid-range stuff.
Don't you have level 1 in Arcanum?
I just took the basic spell. Does that give me level 1, or do I have to like do something?
So remember, you got 2. You should have 2 skills that are at level 1. Which one did you take at level 1?
Oh, I did Arcana as the spell, but I don't know if that is the Arcanum. I thought I had to do that separately.
No, that's the one. By taking so there isn't one. I don't think there's a skill called Arcana. I think there is there is called Arcana.
Yeah,
and then that gives you. Yeah. So one. Let's see here. When you take levels in Arcana, you must choose a focused Arcanum to study. You may advance one of the fundamentals: Arrow, Aqua, blah blah blah. And then every time you get a level, you get to increase that as well. And I think that, if I remember, you also get to add a new one. So, like, if you got Arrow at level 1, when you get level 2 in Arcana, then you would have level 2 in Arrow, and then you'd also get something else at level 1.
Okay. But if I just have level 1 in Arcana, then I just have Arrow at level 1.
That's right, yeah.
All right, that's fine. That's I'll just... Unless we've got something, maybe there's something else I can spend my boons on, or keep them until we start playing.
And let's see here. Then, where are we here? The last thing. Oh, and then so the invoking the spell is doing. We said like rituals and whatnot to do it. If you're just channeling a spell, you want to like wave your hand and make it slam shut. Channeling is much faster. Only takes a single standard action. You're limited to channeling spells at a grade determined by your channel level.
Channel level? That's scary.
Let's see what that is. Sorcerer may spend a bone to reduce the grade. Oh, here it is. You may spend a bone to reduce the grade of a spell by 1 step. It allows low-powered sorcerers to fuel high magics, as well as allowing more adepts casters to reduce the difficulty. Spending a bone on low magic lets the character cast the spell successfully without rolling.
Yeah. So what's the channel level then for, like, that's just the level of the spell that I'm channeling?
Yeah, I think, let's see here.
Okay. But their channel level.
I think it's level, like, it's what we said, the 1. So, like, level, you need 1 in order to do mid-magic, and you need 3 to do high magic. But you can spend a bone to push the high magic down to mid magic.
Yeah.
Once the grade is declared, the guide may additionally raise or lower the success modifier of the spell by any major factors that may aid or hinder the performance of the caster. This is done with ad hoc modifiers, add or subtract 10 for each factor involved. Positives include like a surplus of components, aid from a participant or spirit, or colorful or detailed descriptions. Negative ones would be like performing an invocation in a hurry, bare minimum, or lack of components, or caster's environment is distracting. So, like, for instance, what we would say if you're gonna if you wanted to channel it and make that thing slam shut, low magic is hard. It's -10 difficulty. But if you said, you know, that you're gonna, I don't know, you gave me a really flowery description of it, or like there was a window open elsewhere in the room that you could like draw wind from one and refocus it, that'd be a positive factor. Then you'd make a roll equal to your will plus 10 because you got level 1 in it, and if you succeed, then boom, it goes off. Okay. And then what arrow? And then what they've got examples of aspects: air, communication, mind, and space. So those are the things that your arrow fundamental has power over. And the foci are swords, fans, daggers, or incense. So if you incorporate those, if you decide not to run the risk of getting sorcerer's taint by failing in your roll, and you want to use an invocation, that's how you you incorporate things like your foci.
Oh yes. Okay.
Okay. And then there are, each occultist has a grimoire. You can also learn from other things. And then summoning entities is a big part of the game as well. Or at least it's a very easily done thing in the game. Summoning entities is on 128 of it. So, and then the grade of your ability tells you what the things would be. So simple servitors or sprites are low magic, ghosts or self-aware ephemera are mid magic, and visages, which are like gods or demigods, or more powerful aberrations, are high magic. And then we sort of, in the same way that we figure out what the in fiction explanation is for your powers and your connections and whatnot, we then use that to inform what kind of spirits you could summon. Okay. There's also consumables and expendables that can be used. There's rules for permanent magic. And you can also, there's rules for dealing damage or healing. And for buffs and for wards. That's on page 133. Yeah, and then on page 135 is sample spells for arrow. So like Whispers on the Wind is a low magic one. When burning a candle or incense, the occultist catches smoke in his hand or in their hand and whispers a short message. They then finish by blowing it away, and the intended recipient shall hear it shortly. Okay. So, I think we've got the bare bones for your abilities down here. Does the magic at least give you a sense of sort of the four corners of what you're capable of?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah. It seems like there's a lot I could do here but that's I think I've got enough to get us through a session or so.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the descriptors. So the next thing you guys are going to do is write down 2 sentences or phrases, one positive and one negative, to define additional qualities, quirks, or talents of your character. So you guys can feel free to talk that through. You can feel free to write that down just directly. I believe that these have an effect on the game by... here we go. Descriptors are actually... there's some samples on page 45. Descriptors primarily establish facts about the character in the context of the setting. For example, an experienced pilot would allow a character to feasibly operate a pilot during an adventure. Someone with dashing good looks would leave no doubt the character is physically attractive. Descriptors can add a +10 or -10 modifier, or even grant... or you can spend a bone to gain advantage on a roll when your descriptor would apply.
Okay.
If you guys want to see the sampled ones, it's on page 46.
Okay.
So what do you guys think? Mo,
one I've got an idea for is maybe I should talk a little bit about what I think of this idea so I can kind of explain it. But like, given his politician background and let's
talk about that quickly first. So when you say politician, are we talking like national level politician? Is he a local guy? Is he elected? Is he wanting to be elected? Or he lost office. He ran for it. He might have been a local thing, and now he might have ran for a national, but he lost it. So he saw success at the local level, but then failed on the national stage.
Basically, yeah. Okay. That's kind of I'm seeing it. Like and it was just
more of a conservative character, or more of a liberal character.
Definitely somebody who doesn't think of himself on the ideological spectrum. He thinks of himself but he's probably more liberal in the sense that he thinks in a world where he thinks everybody should be able to find common ground, but they just won't. Okay. And that kind of figures into his positive descriptors. I think he's a harmonizer. Is what he likes to think of himself as.
I think, you know what, it makes sense contextually for someone who's trying to be a consensus builder, seeing success in local politics, but failing on the national stage.
Exactly. Yep.
Right. Okay.
And that goes into his occult ambitions because he is trying to reconstruct the original language of man that was used, that preceded the Tower of Babel, which obviously has occult significance. And he read a book that apparently there was, before the tower fell, there were some people who taught it to some parrots, and they continued to. And so he seeks rare birds that might know fragments of this language.
I love it. That's great.
And he continues, and he's trying to do this to reconstruct this.
You can picture one of his former staffers visiting in on him, like say, "Hey, how you doing, boss?" And his fucking place full of birds and paper and shit.
That's exactly it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Love it. Love it.
They all think he's crazy and everything, obviously, and and he may be, and obviously I think he's attracted to Moe's character because he thinks that this, I was thinking this more of the media thing, but I think there might be the connection there with this whole, he'd like to propagate this idea of this language through like science fiction.
What if he thinks what if this, and then Mo, first let's hear, Mo, what are you thinking? Tell us a little bit about what your character's like.
Well, I'm thinking as the positive one as tech savvy. But
okay, hold on, Mo. Before we get into the specifics of things, let's just talk generalities. Like, give us an idea of who this character is, the same way that Brandon just did. Yeah. So, who is this guy? What's his day-to-day life like? Is he still employed? Is he still working as a businessman, or is he?
I think maybe he IPO'd out.
Okay,
If you see what I mean. So, effectively, he is possibly still doing a bit of angel investing, but he's not full-time employed.
Okay.
So he worked for a company, and it went public, and he made a lot of money.
What type of company do you think he worked for? We don't need specific. Do we mean like is it one of those like tech companies where you really can't tell, like lay people couldn't tell what the fuck they actually do?
Yeah, it's one of. Well, I think maybe it was something to do with computing, and then maybe they got bought out by a big conglomerate.
Okay. That
which
why
now
he's well
is one
off
of
and
these
whatnot. Okay.
massive. It's one of these massive conglomerates that were in fashion years ago that do everything from, rubber boots to phones, like the original Nokia did.
Yeah. So what if?
So I think that
when do you think your manifestation or your connection with your patron happened? Is that after you cashed out? Were you like on a vision quest or something like that?
Maybe the patron helped give the inspiration to the company that was the thing that they bought.
Yeah.
And then maybe it's getting more and stronger.
So may I make this suggestion then? What I was thinking is if your character is searching for this original language, Brandon, what if the name of his startup was the name of this, like it's some weird, and
that's
name.
What drew me to it. Yeah,
and you were like, how the fuck did you know that was a fragment of one of the original tongues? And he's like, what are you talking about? This is my, this is the blob thing that I take worship from.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I'm thinking
Mo,
too.
does that fit
if,
with
like,
you?
Yeah, I think that would work.
Okay.
Well, maybe we both we both got aspects of a larger thing.
Yeah. Well, and the way I kind of like about this is
don't put your stink on his character. This is one of the, but it's a good difference between a shadowed character and an illuminated character. His character is not corrupted or whatever else, and that can change over the course of a campaign.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
But
let's go with that.
he may have approached you about that. Is that okay with you, Mo? That you got, what do you think your name of your company was then? And I guess suppose the name of your, patron. Give us a really good, like 30s to 50s sci-fi conqueror alien name. What do you think?
Zarlog.
Maybe it's say Slan. Oh no, what's the one? Blue Sky Technologies. But maybe it's say what's blue in Latin?
It's not aqua. It's
No, it's a. Shoot! Why don't I remember this?
I'm gonna have to look at it. It's not.
Of course, if this is
yeah, it's we're going for a weird
tongue. It shouldn't be Latin.
No, it should be like a nonsense, sci-fi thing. If you're going with that, still with the old school thing, but you could use definitely. What I'm getting when I look up Latin blue is a bunch of links to Latin blues clubs. Okay, Ceruleus.
Oh yeah, Cerulean. That makes sense.
Yeah, like that's the cerulean blue. I think of that.
So it means blue.
The
That
pusher
really
from X-Files, the old X-Files episode. So, I mean, you could take if you want to take that as inspiration, Mo, you could do like Zerulus. Put an X instead of the the C.
Yeah, let's say that X because everything's cooler with an X.
It's so true.
Okay, so what do you think?
I don't want to go down the whole wormhole extreme aspect.
I just like the idea of some parents saying,
What do you think?
Well, maybe it's got a stylized parrot as part of the logo.
It's got a which? A parrot?
Parrot as part of the logo.
Okay,
like tech companies used to have the animal mascots.
Yeah. So there we go. So then, and that maybe is what brought you two together, is because you saw the name Zerulus, and like maybe if not the full thing, but part of it was a fragment of the, that original tongue.
I like it. Yeah.
Okay, so then you're saying, Mo, that you're looking at your things. I mean, the tech savvy, that your character would be the one behind like the programming and whatever else.
Yep.
Of that, okay. Do you have a positive trait or positive descriptor in mind, Brandon?
Well, okay, so I went with the idea of consensus builder harmonizer. That's how I wrote it down. People who seek,
sure, love it. And then what about negative traits? What do you think, guys?
Traits. Ooh. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out what the word I'm thinking of, because like the thing is, the idea is like if his patron is might be about world domination, that's a way of harmonizing things. He's so I guess maybe negative. What's the word I'm looking for?
Are you talking about your character or Mo's character?
Yeah, I think
my character too, because I think he's willing to I don't know, easily compromise, maybe is what I'm thinking of, like shallow morality. I don't know. Like because that's kind of how it is. It's like, if people get along, if they have no other choice, that's a way of getting people along. Like he could go along with it if it's.
That would be a negative zealous beliefs, I think, or something.
Oh yeah, exactly.
That's where you want to go.
Yeah, zealous beliefs. Okay, that works.
And then, Mo, what about you? What are you thinking for negative?
Negative? I was thinking. What are you thinking? Maybe oblivious, and he's sometimes doesn't work very well socially. So if you've seen Bones, when the character is basically on the spectrum, but will suddenly start talking very technical, or just completely ignore real world niceties.
He's bringing up old science.
Like
he's bringing up old science fiction. Yeah.
Well, also, I mean, it's.
Oh yes, he's prone to the, as you know, to the attractive young assistant.
Okay. She's a creep too.
Well, and I can see why my character would like. You'd probably like my character because suddenly he wants to talk to him about all this old like science fiction type stuff. He's like, really? Yeah,
but it was more like he might not pick up on social clues, so he might like. Yeah. Oh, look at this dead body, and you can see all these interesting things, and you can see this, and everyone else is going.
Yes. All right, so your derived traits then, guys. Your health points are starting to equal to half your strength. So your HP will be half your strength. For your character, are either of your characters, you have a logic of 60 or greater, or a dexterity of 60 or greater?
A logic of 60 or greater.
Okay. And you got a dexterity
from me.
Yeah. So each of you guys have +1. So your initiative is a 2 for each of you. It determines what order you act, and the way that you roll initiative in it is you roll a D10, and then you roll a number equal to your initiative score. You take the best. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go first. It just means you get a better chance of going first. So you guys will be rolling 2D10 for initiative. Damage resistance starts at 0, but we'll have to talk about your gear. And then you guys are rank 1. And I think that, Brandon, you didn't spend any bones, right?
No, I spent 2.
Did you spend 2? What were your 2 bones spent on?
I spent on, let's see, I did it on the training. Okay, so I did that. And I got eloquent, too. That was the other one. I got a perk.
Oh, you got a perk? Yeah, and then, sorry,
yeah,
on that, what training?
And then I spent on the additional training, so I got my Arcana and my investigation.
I see. Yeah, for your scope.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So 2.
Okay.
So how many? So I have 3 left then.
That means you have 3 left. That's right. Yeah.
Okay,
and then Mo, you spent what? 2?
I think 1 because I got the
1 for your oddity.
Seventh Son.
Yeah, that's right.
Oddity.
You didn't spend any, so you have 4.
No. Yeah.
4 bones. Okay. Cool.
I didn't want to spend a lot. Just because I want to see how the current how it works in practice.
Yeah, and bones are for re-rolling any failed action, and then there's other ways you can spend bones as well. Okay, so the next is lifestyle and equipment. Choose character creation. A character should choose 5 pieces of equipment, with at least one of them being an equipment pack, which is an abstracted bundle of tools and gear specific to your activities. The equipment packs are on page 50. And then you guys are both upscale lifestyle, which means you guys have a large home, tech and fashion on par with the Joneses, and can even afford your own business and the property it's on. You may have a few side things you're invested in. You have enough to keep going on and tuck back that if you fall in hard times, you can go for a while without a hitch. You can easily vacation abroad on a whim.
Sweet.
By all the parrots that I need.
Exactly.
Maybe you've got a house with like a I'm not sure what the term is. You've got like a hot house where you have the birds.
Yeah. I get the impression though that he kind of blends his study with the bird habitat quite a bit. There's unfortunately probably some bird droppings.
Mo, if you were going to describe for us what Zerulus looks like, what does Zerulus look like? Or at least, what does your character see when Zerulus manifests?
I think maybe it's a bit like sort of quite aquatic, a bit like maybe the thing from the Black Lagoon or the more recent take on it.
Okay.
So sort of like lizard-like, scaled. So possibly
does it wear a costume?
Not quite
or is
as
it
animalistic as the thing from the Black Balloon, but maybe a bit like the Drell from Mass Effect, who are that sort of quite lizard-like.
Okay. And then does it wear, like, is it nude? Does it...
No, it has some sort of, like, technological clothing.
Okay. And is it that classic sci-fi look?
Yeah, I think
Like-
classic 50s science fiction, maybe the silver suit with the lapels, and maybe he's got a bubble helmet.
And what is it? Does it speak in your mind? Does it communicate to you in some other way? When it does speak, like I've got an idea of it in my head of like, you know, in like disembodied powerful things speak in like original Star Trek. There's that like whoa, la, ma, wah, wah, kind of intonation to the voices. Is it like that, or is it more sinister?
I think it's possibly. I'd imagine it's internal monologue, a bit like it's not like an alternate personality.
Okay, so you're hearing
See what
it.
I mean?
Yeah,
I'm
only
hearing
in your head.
internally, sort of like, yeah.
Okay, and what does it sound like when you hear it in your head?
Probably sibilant, possibly somewhat flanged, if you know that sort of like flange type speaking, which is
I have no idea what you're saying. Give us an example.
it's the effect they used on Stargate for one of the monsters. Effectively, you flange the voice, and it sounds quite weird.
Okay.
It sounds deeper and quite dominant.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, it would be a
Example of
deeper
that.
flange, slightly not say echoey, but just very a darker, quite deep bass.
Okay. I'm asking because as your friendly DM, I probably will be doing the voice of this thing, so I want to have an idea of what you're picturing in your mind, so I can try and emulate that. Okay, so that sounds great. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. All right, and what about, let's talk about your grimoire, Brandon. What does your grimoire look like?
That's actually a good question. I mean, I hate to be boring, but I see him as just using a kind of a more of a just kind of leather bound, more modern type book that he just keeps notes in, like kind of
Okay.
like a moleskin.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, he's a modern human. He's a modern person. It's just
Yeah.
you know,
I just have 50
Yeah.
birds. Come on.
that's exactly that's what it is. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then, so you guys will get. Let's see here. What is it? So one of them is going to be your equipment pack. Take a look at page 50 and select one of those packs, and then 4 other pieces of equipment.
50. Oh, here we go. All right, so he's got the occultist pack, and
Yeah, I think occultist to me.
Okay.
yeah,
Colored
With all
chalks,
those
sort of
mystic
trinkets, curios. Would that be yours, Mo, or the scientist pack? From the way you described your character.
Yeah, yes. We can always say the mysticism is powered through that, so
yeah.
Yeah, because I think you're still, from the way you've been describing it, aren't you still understanding that your powers are some kind of sci-fi explanation to
Yeah.
them?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that works.
Remind us again, what are your manifestations?
Manifestations are lifesteal, compel, terrify, and the burden's a haunted and dreadful feature.
Awesome. So yeah, like now knowing what Zerulus looks like, you may take on like lizard-like or aquatic characteristics.
Well, yeah, I mean, the skin may be slightly scaly, eyes maybe glow a bit.
Okay.
I think presumably you can have different levels of it affecting me. So if I get more and more,
Yeah.
The lizard people. You are becoming like the lizard people of conspiracy theories.
Yeah. And he's working with a politician too.
yeah, I do apologise for David Icke.
I'd like to say hi to all our new QAnon viewers. So- Oh my gosh. Okay. So then go ahead and select your gear, guys. We're going to assume that this is... I'm picturing this taking place probably... My first instinct was to set it in Canada because this is easy for me then. But I
do
think...
that.
I think we're... let's pick somewhere in John's neck of the woods. So I'm thinking maybe like a Portland kind of thing. So we got a bit of that like 90s, you know... I mean, X-Files was all shot in Vancouver for the first bunch of seasons, but I think in that West Coast kind of overcast, you know, type setting.
Isn't that Vancouver? Isn't Vancouver?
We can make it Vancouver, yeah. The only reason
that works,
the only thing is guns. Weapons will be less readily available in Canada than they are. I don't know if you guys care one way or the other, but
I don't think my character would think to carry a gun. I mean, come on, can't we all just talk it through?
Yeah, like okay. That's totally fine then.
Yeah,
yeah, and I mean Vancouver also is a home of lots of wealthy tech folks as well.
Yeah, I think it fits. Yeah.
So yeah, let's head to Vancouver. I lived in Vancouver for a couple of years, so I can definitely use that as a frame of reference.
My only references through all the movies that are filmed there.
Honestly, so. if you've seen any episode of Smallville, of the two first Fantastic Four films, one of them was filming while I was going to school there. I went to a party instead of being an extra in that film.
So, oh, really? Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's so many movies are filmed there. It's yeah. Often they say it's San Francisco. It's always a standard.
Or Blade 3. Yeah. Blade 3, X-Men 3. Which was great because I saw X-Men 3 while I was living in Vancouver too, and there's a bit where Angel smashes through the window and it's this building downtown called the Wall Building, and the whole fucking theater started laughing. That's so obvious where it was.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Or the famous in Rumble in the Bronx. How you've got the mountains of Vancouver in the background. It's like, I don't think that's New York City.
There's the episode, one of the episodes of Smallville where Aquaman is introduced. They're like, again, it's supposed to be Kansas. She's at a lake where there's mountains in the background.
Yeah, exactly.
Where the fuck is it supposed to be?
Kansas.
Oh, God. There's a library there called the Kerner Library. The Magicians was also shot on University of British Columbia campus.
Okay.
My alma mater.
Well, and then they have that one of the universities in Vancouver is also that one that's used as like a research facility, like in Resident Evil, and it's either a research facility or like a government facility.
It's the
that's
big, on the UBC campus.
Building.
There's a place called the Kerner Library that is a kind of a weird looking glass building, and it's used in so many establishing shots for so many CW shows. So
I bet,
yeah.
I think the one I'm thinking is more like brutalist. It's actually really cool.
That's Simon Fraser, SFU.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, Simon Fraser University is like that. It's has the distinction, or at least did in the day, of having the suicide. It's the leader in suicides for undergrad universities.
Oh, really?
Yep. All right. So
I can see that building being an appropriate place for Mo's character. Like, it just looks like what you would picture.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. All right. So then, have you guys selected your gear?
Oh, all I see here is guns. Where's all the regular gear? Vehicles.
Keep going forward.
Rank calculation, advancement rewards. No, I'm not. Okay, back. Maybe I need to go back.
I think it's pretty. Individual choices of gear should make sense in context of what characters would regularly have on hand for immediate access. I mean, beyond things that are listed here, it's a modern setting, so you can just,
Oh, okay. So we can just list.
And some of the things that are listed in the packs, you could draw from too. Like if your character has a personal computer or a laptop or something like that, you can add that to the list, or a tablet.
Yeah.
A smartphone.
Smartphone, tablet.
Yeah. I think the smartphone is.
He probably has a laptop too, just because he's.
And you guys are pretty well off as well, so you can acquire more gear over the course. It's just this is the stuff that we know you've got readily on hand.
Yeah. Let's go with.
And then a vehicle as well too, if you guys want. Vancouver's pretty transit friendly, vehicle. But. Okay. So that took us about an hour and a half to go from completely not knowing the game to having your characters. Mo, did you get your gear selected?
Yeah. So I am going to go with a basic handgun.
Okay. You're rich enough to have gone through that, but so you're aware in Canada that means unless it is an illegal handgun, it would be something that you've gone through like firearm certification and it is registered.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm also going to say he's got some reinforced clothing because maybe, like all rich people, he probably had kooks after him.
Sure.
So he's just got, it's this sort of the non-obvious body armor that he might have.
Let's hold on.
Well, reinforced clothing, I'm not quite sure. Is that just heavy jacket or something like that?
I think it's meant to be, like it's reinforced, so it's going to have some kind of Kevlar or something in it.
Well, maybe he's got like a bike jacket, because they've got the sort of Kevlar plates in them for crashing.
Like a motorcycle, yeah. I mean, a really expensive Ducati bike would be a perfect, douchebag rich person thing to buy. So,
okay, we'll say bike.
Sure.
As well as the sub. I assume he's got a Land Rover.
Okay.
Assuming you can import them to Canada. I'm
so
not
remember,
sure if they're like in the
5
States.
things we're thinking of here. You got 4 left. You got a jacket. You got a handgun. You said a Land Rover.
Yeah.
One more. And the game is again very, very light on its feet. So like we don't really need. It's not going to be like.
All right. We'll say he's got a really good computer.
That's part of your scientific package.
All right. I will say okay. So current reinforced equipment.
How about this, Mo? Like, what if you had a satellite phone?
Okay. Yeah.
Like a satellite smartphone. That way, you'll never be out of service.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Brandon, you got all your gear?
Yeah, I got a
parrot number 1, parrot number 2, parrot number 3.
So we're setting this in the 90s.
at home, but
so it's going to be like one of those suitcase mobile phones, not the
no. This will be modern day.
Oh,
modern day.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, good. Because I wrote that he has a Tesla.
Okay.
So he totally would. Smartphone, laptop, camera, boring stuff. But that's what he would have. I think he'd have.
Mm-hmm.
Because he needs to take actually detailed pictures. He doesn't want to just use his phone.
Okay.
It's.
Then. All right. I think we have your characters together, guys. Just a quick. A funny story about firearm certification in Canada. My buddy is he wanted to get his firearms license, and at the time he was working as a Crown prosecutor, which is like a district attorney in Canada, and he was working in the criminal division for it. And so one of the things that he used me as a reference because I'd known him for quite some time at that point. The people from the Canadian government call and they're asking, they go through the standard things. Does he do this? Does he do this? And does he have an obsession with crime? And I'm like,
He's a
he does, but it's a professional thing. And I gave context to it. Laugh on the other end. They're like, oh, okay, that's.
Well, yeah, but what side of professional? That's
yeah.
Well, I actually know someone who's married to something she's in the FBI.
Okay.
And she's a criminal prosecutor, and they've had threats and had to have a car at the end of their drive. But he lives in Baltimore, so that's rough.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny.
I don't know if we've ever had security. Yeah.
No, we've they're the crime prosecutors here are unfortunately not paid well. And also they've talked about having to one guy I went to when I was in law school, went to lunch with him because at the time I wasn't sure what area I wanted to practice in, and he was telling me a story about having a guy that he had sentenced coming up to him on our train, it's called the C train. Came out, remember me? Kind of thing. Nothing came of it, but yeah.
Oh yeah, that stuff like that happens a lot. I think. I worked with a guy when I was at a U.S. attorney's office. Like, I worked with a guy who was a cop, and he told me several times, like, he'd be at a store and he'd be like, "We got to leave," because there'd be a guy that he just arrested that was walking around the store, and he's with his family and everything. It's like,
yep, it definitely. It's not something you can always leave at the office, especially. It doesn't matter how big your town is. Oh
yeah.
Every. Yeah. Anyway, so I think we got these characters together, guys. We need names, and we need to know in our film version of the campaign, who would you cast as your character?
I think possibly David Hewlett for mine.
Ooh. Okay. Yeah. Can you find a picture of that? Oh, wait, we don't have a character sheet for this. Never mind.
Name.
Oh, I know who. Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay. Who is this? The Juneteenth episode. Is the guy?
We got character mine. Excuse me. Oh, you know what we can do? Hold on. I can, even though we don't have a character sheet, we can create characters here. So let's do this. Mo's character.
What's his name?
Go. There you go. Most place you can load your image for your character, and then go and rename your character. Feel free to do that too.
Okay.
And here you go, Brandon. Is your character as well. And then, so what I'm going to take, we're way past our mid-session break. We'll take our mid-session break now, and then we'll come back and talk about what the rules are for campaign creation.
Okay.
We'll kind of talk about what, how we, establish a setting and stuff like that, and what, or at least what the suggestions are for the book, or in the book, and then, yeah. So anyway, anything else? Do we have names for your characters?
No, I'm bad with names. Let's see. No.
Dale Holland. Okay, cool. So go ahead and change your character name then, Mo. And you can change your display name as well, too, if you like.
Let's go with Jason Hewitt. His slogan was, "We can do it with Hewitt."
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Do it with Hewitt. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
oh, your character mode, because you can actually the character sheet I gave you, that you can actually load your image there as well.
Yeah. Hang on.
And you can change the name of the character as well too. You should be able to edit that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I've got a sheet.
Yeah, and there's Brandon. You got yours there as well.
I've got my.
Okay.
He's played by what's this guy's actor's name? I just got Rick Holmes. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
No.
You ever see Atlanta?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah. He played a character in that where he was he basically is this white guy who takes black guys as a hobby. Like he's like really into it and like really overdoes it, and just I don't know, it just seems to fit like this guy who's like this idealist who thinks everybody should just why can't everybody just understand it? And he just looks like I don't know. Let's
see here. Is this
get a picture of him?
Is the dude here?
Let's see. Yeah, that guy. Yeah, that's
okay, cool.
That's him, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
And Hewitt, okay. Awesome. Okay. All right, so then let's take our mid-session break, and we'll come back and talk about how we go about setting the stage here. So we'll be back momentarily, folks.
All righty.
Yeah, I have to go and get coming out of the fridge for later.
Yes. All right.
All right, sorry about that, guys. Someone did not want to come back inside. Then let's talk about our setting. So I'm looking on page 174 of the core book, and it talks about the different lenses or world building prompts that they have in here. So themes, they note that I guess urban fantasy and modern horror are very broad genre labels with many connotations and expectations. So suggestions, or what setting elements will the campaign gravitate towards? Are things like Curtain of Night, which is a balance of fantasy and horror. It's illuminated focus, but a shade or two are welcome. Paranormal is real, but maintains a low profile on the world stage. Characters get caught up in the terrors and mystery of the occult, but also, while also trying to maintain their normal lives. Monsters stalk the streets. Magic is real, but bills still need to get paid. Second one is Cadre of Shadows. Same as Curtain of Night, but told from the shadowed point of view. So honestly, Curtain of Night and Cadre of Shadows feel like the difference between Buffy and Angel. Urban Fantastic is the next one. Horror is dialed down in favor of a more fantastic setting. Shades and cryptids are more out in the open, as is the practice of modern magic. Whether these elements have been fully integrated into society, although not necessarily seen in mainstream acceptance, or if it behaves as a hidden world to the masses is an open question for the group. And then the final one is Living Nightmare. Fantasy is dialed down and horror is cranked up to an oppressive, grimdark level. For these characters, what type of world do you think they would be inhabiting? Oh, you're muted, Brandon.
Sorry. Since it seems like we're playing both Illuminated and we're kind of playing two sides of the different coins, it sounds like the first two, I guess.
First two, yeah, like a Curtain of Night.
With my idea, yeah, the Curtain of Night and the what's the other one? Yeah.
Okay. Mo, does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I think that would. Yeah, I think Curtain of Night better than Cadre of Shadows.
Okay. Yeah, so you're the odd one out, and the focus is more on the Illuminated. Okay. Next is styles. What styles of story are told in this campaign? What hooks, moods, and motifs interest you and your players most? The stranger dark. Weird events plague the city, and some sinister force seems to be behind it all. PCs are caught up in its web, and it's up to them to peel back the layers. Hunting the haunts. It's a more episodic approach. Each adventure is focused around tracking and hunting down a different paranormal threat that's preying on the innocent. Cults, cabals, and conspiracies is the next one. As if the horrors of an infected reality are bad enough, the PCs are caught up in the crossfire of a city-wide feud between shadow factions competing for power and influence. And the final one is Occult Punk Rising. The world is in chaos. Corrupt authorities keep their boots on the necks of the masses to serve the gross, endless appetites of the 0.1%. Social media rots our brains with fabricated outrage and toxic influencers. Old gods pull the strings of old money and corrupt politicians. I think this feels very, what do you call Unknown Armies, right?
Yeah, or World of Darkness. Yeah,
totally. Yeah. World of Darkness. What do you guys think?
Yeah, definitely.
And the style could be sort of somewhere in between as well.
I quite like the cults and the Occult Punk Rising.
Yeah.
It could work.
But I think both of your characters also have fairly good self-driven kind of ways to frame our stories around too.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. I mean, we've got the episodic kind of way, but not necessarily with monsters, but just with like missions.
Yep.
Hey, I think here our patrons wants us to do that. You know, his patron wants us to do this.
Yeah.
Hey, I've heard about this parrot that's over here. We can go get that.
Okay. Next is the Illuminated. Who are the Illuminated? Yeah. What place do they have in this world? Hashtag Illuminated, just another meme, hashtag or buzzword that's cropped up online, particularly in conspiracy or occult circles. Most who claim the tag believe that there's a lot more going on behind the scenes, particularly of a supernatural origin. There's the calling. Being illuminated is more than just being awake to the state of the world. It's a phenomenon, maybe even its own spiritual calling. Across different cultures, faiths, and backgrounds are rare individuals who stand out from the rest of humanity. Or sacred order. The Illuminated are actually part of an ancient society that's existed through many incarnations throughout history.
I think the first one probably makes the most sense for my character. He just
part of an ongoing tradition.
It just started reading stuff like what they're talking about, like hashtags online and stuff like that.
Yep.
People like adopting. Yeah, that seems to fit more of.
Okay, and then the Shadowed. What roles do the Shadowed play in the world? To each their own monsters. There's no big underground monster society or hidden conspiracy in Shadows. Some may seek allies or companions in other individual shades, but outside of that, each one struggles and embraces the monstrous side of their own. There's kinship. There's no Shadowed society proper, but they tend to gather in close-knit circles or cliques with shades of a similar nature, packs of werewolves, houses of vampires, covens of witches, and the like. Or shadow courts. Ancient traditions have established that in every city is a tribunal of shades, often ruled by a council of the eldest. Lost Girl, I think, feels like that one, where there's like specific... I don't know if you guys know that one. It's a Canadian show. But it features like the Fae and other kind of supernatural creatures, but in a very structured kind of, almost kind of the World of Darkness social societies in the different games. What do you guys think? It sounds to me like to each their own monster is more the situation here.
Yeah, I don't think there's like a large number.
Yeah.
We might slide into slight kinship. There probably are others out there, but maybe they only have one or two friends, possibly.
No.
So
and
I
the way
think
you guys have described
own, I think.
the way you guys have described your characters as well, it feels more like the other eliminated in the other supernatural you'll meet out there will be as unique as well, as opposed to being like
so.
Yeah,
I'd agree.
Okay, and then cosmology, how involved are things beyond the curtain in this campaign? Background noise, the echo touches the world and its inhabitants linger, but otherwise remains a mystery. Aside from rare instances of rogue occultists trying to make contact with the other side, or mystics using their sixth sense to gaze across, the nether realms remain behind the curtain and behind the scenes, lurking and always present. Then neither is always here, even when it's not seen by normal eyes. Ghosts, spirits, and more haunt almost every corner if you look for them. And the last one is as above, so below and beyond. It's less a barrier and more of a revolving door. So from the way you guys have described things, I feel like background noise is probably more.
I agree.
Possibly lurking, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then character...
neither of us really know what the greater cosmic sense of things are. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd imagine it might be between the two, or start off as background, and then maybe if we go further, it might extend.
Yeah. And then character bonds. The characters, you guys have already done this. We don't really need to go through that.
Yeah.
And then obligations. What interests drive or motivate the characters to work together? Community, the cause themselves.
Ooh, the cause, finding the chosen one to usher in the new golden age.
It may be different for your characters as well, too. Like, does your character, does Jason, does he feel like there's a, that this patron that Dale is dealing with, that it is the way to go, like by fulfilling that, or is it just that he's trying to get what he can from the relationship?
I think he's more leaning towards it's the way to go, because once he finds this language, he wants to propagate it, and I think that this patron, he thinks that this might be the way to do it.
Okay.
Like, or at least that Dale's the way to do it.
Okay.
Nice. One of the other.
All right, so here's what the campaign setting. There's the quick and dirty campaign setting creation on page 179. And what this is we pick a city, town, or region. So we've got Vancouver, British Columbia. Grab a map. I will not do that. I wonder if I can.
Apparently, Vancouver has counselors. That's what I read. I was looking at Vancouver
for city council.
government.
Yeah.
That's
yep. For that would be local politics. There's a mayor, and then there's a city council as well. And then if it's provincial politics, it would be the premier is the one who runs the province, and then there are members of the legislative assembly who are the sort of like the ones in the party and that make up, or the different parties that make up the government, and the if it's federal politics, then it would be a member of parliament, an MP.
Yeah. And it's single member districts in Canada, right?
Yes, single member districts. Yep.
Okay.
And it's
he could have been that too, I suppose. He could have been provincial level politics. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the
then ran for parliament.
and was unsafe. So what he could have done too is try to get involved with like leadership politics as well too. The West has a pretty big tradition of conservative politicians, and if he was a middle of the road person and then found himself in, our politics aren't quite as polarized as the U.S. is right now, but it's not terribly far off from that. Okay.
Yeah, I would imagine that.
We do have more parties, though. We have there's 4 parties that are in make up our federal government right now, and that's been the way for the last 10, 15 years. But it's like the UK elections, first past the post. Whoever has the most seats makes up the government. That's at provincial and at federal level. So that's me making use of both of my poli-sci degrees. So there you go.
And I'd hope you know that if you were just a general Canadian too, but apparently some people. I think as poli-sci majors, we expect more of our populations.
I still think it's funny that when people say I'll plead the fifth. Like, okay, so you mean that Parliament will have to sit once every year?
That's funny.
Because
Fifth Amendment doesn't really translate to
Fifth Amendment. It ain't the same thing in the Canadian Constitution. I demand that Parliament sit once a year.
That's funny.
Okay.
Well, that was one of the Levelers' original demands, was yearly parliaments, but but we did have those weird people who tried to storm Edinburgh Castle. They claimed they could do it for the Magna Carta. Which never applied in Scotland, but they're freemen in the land. They're like the
we'll steer clear of that. I don't need any interaction with that segment of the of the internet. Oh, good lord. Okay, so the let's see here. Grab a map. Points of interest. We're going to label at least 6, maybe more spots across the area that will serve as primary locations for your relevant game setting. There's a neat idea for chaos placement of that, where you just set the map down in front of you, and then you drop some like coins or something like that, and pick those as your places. Let's do this. Let's have each of you guys give us a 3 D100 rolls. Okay. All right, Cooper. Anna says hi to everyone. Okay. 38, 22, 65.
That wrong way.
55.
Well, 2 of them are like doubles.
Anna, careful, sweetie.
There we go.
What are you doing, Goofus? 76 and 40. Hey, what are you doing?
Guess I could have just done 3D100 and you could have read it.
It all works. Whatever. All right, so let's see here. So
I don't know whether it adds it up or not, but no, it doesn't.
It does, but it shows you. It
does, but you can't.
Break it down.
Okay. So let's see here. 38. A park or public location where people have gone missing in broad daylight. That's Stanley Park. Then.
All right, Stanley Park.
Stanley Park is right down by the water. It's downtown-ish, and then right down by the waterfront. It's been in a bunch of TV shows and things like that.
I think I know what it is.
Okay. Have gone missing. Beautiful park. 22 is a campsite where someone goes missing every year. Their footprints muddled with hoof prints leading off into the river.
Ooh.
That might be trickier in the urban sprawl that is that. But what about this? What if we switch it to a homeless site? There is a neighborhood near it's Canby. I think it's Canby in Maine. It's where we have for 10 or 15 years there's been a legal safe injection site. It was a subject of a bunch of lawsuits here, and it's really not a great neighborhood. Maybe that's the area where there's been hoof prints of people who have gone missing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This is outside of the city too, but
this one's actually right near the core, the heart of it. But the interesting thing with gentrification, like all the neighborhoods around are sort of crushing in excuse me, with more upscale things, and it still is right there. So it's sort of
interesting.
Yeah. Vancouver, because of the climate, has a much higher homeless population than what other places do. So, or I mean, it's like L.A., right? Like it's easier to be homeless.
Oh yeah.
Climate-wise.
Or Seattle too.
Seattle. Yeah. Okay. Okay. 65 is an old cemetery where nobody's been buried for decades, but vehicles are frequently seen leaving. So there is what I might suggest here, guys, to give it play into the cultural makeup of that. South of BC, there's a community called Richmond. And it has a huge huge Asian population. So it's tons of Chinese immigrants, people who fled the Hong Kong at the turnover to the Chinese. What if there was a cemetery there that saw cars coming in and out, but no one seems to be.
There is that big cemetery they always use in Vancouver set shows as well. I'm not sure where that one is.
I'm not too sure where that one is.
But I guess people have been buried there. People get buried there.
Yeah, that one's huge. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's so it would be a Catholic, old Catholic one then, presumably.
Okay, so let's shelve the idea. The ethnic diversity in Vancouver is a huge part of the living there. It doesn't show up in the TV shows, but there's a lot of the experience that my friend had trying to buy a house out there recently, a friend from law school, was that there was, when they were going to see the places, there was a bunch of brokers outside who were all on cell phones speaking Mandarin or Cantonese to people overseas because they were, coming in and buying. So,
well, if we're doing it in real time, there's obviously the Hong Kong diaspora.
Well, that's what I said, Mo. In the 90s, when there was a turnover to Hong Kong, there's a bunch of people who relocated to Vancouver. And that's why you've got 30 years worth of folks. Plus, there's like all sorts of South or East Asian and Southeast Asian folks too. Big Filipino community out there. So Old Cemetery. Our cars come and go.
So you can get a decent Indian restaurant in.
There is a South Asian. Actually, there's a huge South Asian population too. Come to think of it, the Sikh population is huge. I think Canada has the largest Sikh population outside of India.
Unbelievable.
That rather cool. What was it? The Sergeant of Arms. It was a Sikh, isn't he?
Yeah.
The one that effectively.
No, see, the Sikh have a long tradition of.
Went,
there's a case you read in law school for constitutional law about one of the guys, Sikh member of the RCMP, because he wanted to continue wearing his turban as part of his religious practices.
There's the turban, the kippah, the little. The
dagger.
Yep, well, and the leader of our our socialist leaning party, the NDP, is Sikh as well too.
The one Canadian I had in law school was Sikh too.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we only have one Canadian.
Yeah, well, we had only one American. It was in my year of law school. Yeah, we were pretty sure he was part of the CIA in retrospect,
Probably,
as well too.
Yeah.
Or at least some kind of intelligence agency.
Yeah.
So they. In 55, an alleyway littered in sigils that read "No More."
I don't think that actually exists.
Well, that's a bit like the Magicians, where they've got like that. There is some of the buildings are like that. They're marked up.
Yeah.
Is this something that would be seen in The Sixth Sense and maybe not? Or if it's like hidden in normal graffiti, I would imagine.
Yeah. And I mean, there's plenty of every dark and dingy alley you've seen in Arrow or whatever else like that. That's all Vancouver as well. So, that definitely.
So presumably we ought to have the steam tunnels under that disused mental hospital that we always use in every show.
Yeah. That's not a disused mental hospital. That is an active hospital too.
Oh right, I think there's a disused part, and they say it's quite creepy.
Yeah. Well, it's also there are tunnels under some parts of UBC, University of British Columbia, so they just redress that stuff and use it as it. Okay, and then 76. A local TV or radio station that airs bizarre broadcasts that allegedly aren't on the programming schedule.
Huh.
Oh, so that's Night Vale sort of type thing, really.
Yeah. Okay. And the last one is 40. A playground where children often claim to have seen angels or fairies. So there is a neighborhood called Point Grey right near the UBC. University of British Columbia is closer to the actual ocean. It's not far off from it. And then as you go east, there's a massive bunch of forest called the Endowment Lands that are the UBC has a big forestry department. So people studies trees and whatnot too. And then just outside of that is this very affluent kind of college-y neighborhood with great old trees and shit like that called Point Grey. I can picture there's a playground near the northern part of Point Grey, right near where you can see the ocean. That probably would have this kind of, it almost would look like something out of like either old Eastern U.S. cities or towns or European stuff, twisting oaks and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can see that.
Point Grey Playground. All right.
Yeah, you could maybe make that part of, like, maybe there's some ancient burial grounds or ancient sacred grounds from the original inhabitants, as it were.
Could be. Well, so one of the interesting things with BC as well is that, and this may be this way it is in the States as well too, basically the longer it took for European the European colonizers to get to you, the better you were in negotiating the continuation of your culture. So the Salish and the I can't remember what the other one is that's out in Vancouver, but there's lots of still very active. There's lots of totem poles that you'll see on UBC campus. The First Nations, that's what we call Native Americans in Canada, or they refer to themselves as First Nations. First Nations groups in Canada in BC are a lot better organized than that. So there still definitely could be sacred places, but there could be continuity from the original inhabitants of the region, the mask-wearing, Salish and Tsimshian people, still, their shamans still carrying on their traditions. Because it's less the further east you get, the more. And it's not to say that life was great for First Nations groups out here in the West either, but it's better than, say, the Mi'kmaq in the East Coast that were almost eliminated. So, yeah. Anyway, it's just West Coast trivia now. So the next thing is 5 feuding factions. We come up with factions that are sort of in alignment. It's a neat idea of which ones are allied with each other and then which ones are enemies in it. I'm on page 182, which is a clever bit of clever tool for campaign design. Let's do this. Let's have each of you guys, I'll roll 1, how about, and then you guys each roll 2. Give us 2d10 rolls, please. I'll roll mine in here too. Boom, 3 and 6. Okay. $10 and sorry, I need you guys roll that twice, please.
Oh, I rolled it twice. 10 and 2.
Oh no, I rolled the 2d10 twice. It's a combo of the two.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, so 11 and
Oh no, it's the individual roles. What I'm looking at.
oh, sorry.
That's okay. If you want to follow along what I'm doing, I'm on page 183.
Is this something our character should know?
No. I mean, like, if you're curious about how character creation goes in this, or the setting thing,
Yeah.
So, like, you know, one gives us the faction type, and the other one gives us the agenda. Okay. Yeah. So, like, for instance, the first two that I've got here, one of them is a pack with an agenda of hedonism, and the next one is an agency with an agenda of secrecy. Next is a family with an agenda of ascendancy. I can see why that would be something that both of you would be opposed to.
Yeah.
And then next one is a pack that is, has an agenda of knowledge. I could see your character interacting with them potentially, Brandon.
Yeah.
And then a compact allied with power.
How are they
agenda.
defining pack? Does that entail like werewolves or something?
A band of
or what's-
marauders who share bonds of loyalty only to each other.
Okay.
That's the description. So that could be werewolf pack,
Gotcha.
could be a motorcycle gang, could be just, you know, whatever you want to do. And then what they do is you place them on the thing here, and the wheel, each point of the star is connected to two other points opposite to them. They are their rivals. And then the other is the arrows turning clockwise are exploiting for a commodity. So number one is exploiting number two is exploiting number three is exploiting number four, and so forth. And then the opposite ones are, so let's just see what this works out like. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means the pack of hedonists would be taking advantage of the agency, the secrecy agency, and then they are opposed or rivals with the family trying to ascend, and the pack with knowledge, or with an agenda of knowledge. And then the agency is taking advantage of the family with dedicated to ascendancy, or with the agenda of ascendancy. And the family of ascendancy is rivals with that pack of hedonists, as well as that compact looking for power. So it's really like it's a prompt for filling in further details, but I think it's a pretty clever way of...
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could definitely use this for other things. And what it means is, what I like about it is that it's got at least one ally that they're exploiting, and one that they're being exploited by, and it gives two rivals to it. So it gives the world sort of a in-motion feel in a fairly easy way. And for a sandbox game like this, I think that's exactly what you need. Something that's a little loose, so you can kind of, like, you know, build your adventures and whatnot around that. Cool. Other than that, I think we're done. Mostly we're almost out of time as well, too. There's Adventure Prep is next up. And then
I'm already picturing, I'm already thinking that ascendancy and the hedonistic thing would be kind of interesting, because like they're rivals. So it gives you, it already defines like what the ascendants might think of as what ascendancy looks like.
Yep.
It's
and because
like,
does the pack have the same thing that they need in order to ascend, or is the pack disrupting what they need to ascend? You know?
Exactly.
And then the compact looking for power, they're the ones who are allied with and taking advantage of the pack, the hedonistic pack. Right, so like
what is
it's,
that
it's
like? Yeah,
yeah, it's neat. You can almost like all like it, I think it's a really good way of prompting your imagination for like what NPCs and what characters and whatnot might be involved in this stuff. Like and knowing where the different weird places is that we've set up as well too. You know, we can start associating certain places with certain things. Like, you know, that old cemetery, people come and go. I picture that maybe that family might be associated with that.
Yeah, totally.
Right, and then
Maybe they've got an old family crypt or something, and there's something down.
Yeah, possibly. And then the alley with sigils and whatnot, that might have to do with one of the packs.
Yeah.
You know, the agency, you know, dedicated to secrecy, making use of what's going on in the world, allied with both the pack of hedonists and the family of ascendancy. Yeah. That's kind of, I think that also gives you some idea of what, you know, it gives.
They could be running the TV station.
Yeah, possibly.
Something like that. Yeah.
And what I like about it is that it gives, it sets up dynamics and tension. So you've got your character's drives, you've got what you want to be achieving with your characters in this world of competing kind of things. So, and 5 is a manageable amount, right? Like it doesn't get so out of control that you're not going to, you know, you're not going to know, you're going to lose track of what characters are what. And it's neat because I think it also it's loose enough so you can, if you want to have more like say traditional elements in there, like vampires and werewolves and whatever, you could find ways to you know, make all of these make sense in the context of that. Or if you wanted to go more esoteric or more, you know, unusual, you could go in that direction as well too. Like
I'm picturing that pack is almost like a bacchanalian kind of like like that kind of like the beast broadly like kind of lycanthropic, but just more
eyes wide shut or some.
Yeah, well,
I'm picturing more savage.
That too. Savage.
Like almost like maenads, right? Like things that like in ecstatic, fury, they would like tear things apart and whatnot. You know, so it's cool. And but again, you know, and if your jam is more of a traditional thing, like that pack of hedonists could easily just be vampires, you know, like the Lost Boys kind of thing. And you can see why the agency might want to take advantage of them. The Ascendant family, even if you wanted to keep it in a narrower lens, you could fit each of these things in with like a vampire clan, right?
Yeah.
Or magical, you know, magical groups, right? Maybe one of them is, like you said, instead of being actual magical creatures like maenads, it could be like Dionysian wizards.
Yeah.
You know, the secrecy agency could be the Illuminati or something similar. You know, the family could just be something that like has a bloodline type thing, like Merovingian kind of type thing. What is it? The pack involved in knowledge too could be, you know, primitive wizards. They're not part of, like, imagine a you know, like a biker gang, but organized around kind of like a pre-written or prehistory magic kind of thing, like something that sees magic only in like the monument builders in the UK, right, or the Dreamtime in Australia. All those wild areas that would still be, you know, the lines, the Nazca lines in the US, all that shit would be outside the city and whatnot. So you'd kind of could explain why those wizards would be out there. So it's cool. Interesting. So your characters, you guys have your characters full together. I haven't even looked at your character sheets. So let's see what, or your notes. Let's see what they...
Oh, yeah, I screwed up the initiative on mine, but I'll figure that out.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm just putting in the various things.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Cool. So what do you guys think? This is our first time taking the game out for a spin. What did you guys think of the process, of the characters you came up with?
Yeah, I think it's really good doing the round.
Looking forward to it.
It just really makes you think, well, what sort of story are we trying to tell with this character?
Yeah.
And I certainly like the idea there's the conflict with mine, because effectively it's a bit like if you burn too much power, you get less human.
Yeah.
You become taken over.
One thing I really liked is in my magical sense that how they didn't like the Arrow Arcanum also included things that are commonly associated with it that are less physical, like language and communication and thought. And I'm like, because that's what I was thinking more of, and I'm like, oh, there it is, that works. And it's cool that I also get to do physical things while it's at it, because it's like, I don't know. It definitely feels more occult in that sense, having like associations with elemental air being with not just about physical things. So I always appreciate that kind of stuff.
And I think that the neat thing with the game is that it definitely gives you a lot of freedom to really define the character as how you within the context of their things. I know you struggled a bit at the start there, Mo, with figuring out how to fit your character concept in, but are you happy with the character that you've come up with at the end?
Yeah, I think so. Especially as we're trying to doing it effectively. I've read the book about once.
Totally,
we're
absolutely.
Trying to have a more complex character system. So I think I like the way it sets up, because it's quite different to other type of urban horror type games.
Well, and it really allowed you guys to come up with, like, instead of us trying to like look at a predetermined list of like, well, which of the traditions would you fit this character in, and how would you manifest this or whatnot too, the way we would with like Mage the Ascension. It's interesting that we were able to figure out what what's the what this character is, what the relationship is, and what stories are we going to tell with them. Having gone through that process once now too, I'm going to be a lot better armed to help people make their characters the second time too. Because the thing I think I stumbled with Yumo was I wasn't communicating well enough what the dynamic is with the devoted, and like what the difference is, the difference between the shadowed and the illuminated being that cost that is taken of your character. I think we would have got it to the point where we were getting a firmer idea or a more crystallized idea of your character had we got to that understanding earlier.
But obviously I think it's quite a different thing than, so I think these sort of shadowed are possibly a bit more complex to come up with a backstory that fits the game.
For sure, yeah.
Because you really don't want to have, I think that was probably one of the problems we had with Modern Age. We had like so many disparate characters.
Absolutely.
They weren't a unit, whereas certainly these two, you could certainly see them working together because they've got some common interests.
Well, and that's I think a value for making the characters together in this game in particular as well too, is like what the game is going to look like really has been informed by the way that your characters sort of came together and you played off each other's ideas. Right, so cool. Yeah, no, definitely, it's a game I'll look forward to getting to the table to actually run as well too, because I am curious to see how it plays at the table and to see what you guys do with your powers as well. So totally. I'll give some thought to the character creation. Any last thoughts on Sigil and Shadow?
I'm gonna pick up a copy.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really good, I think, and it's, again, I like the small format.
Absolutely.
Rather than having to carry, well, I've got my Starfinder stack over there, which I'm working with, and carrying all those to a real life game, it was like my shoulder was dropping off.
And that's the thing, like, it's a different, one thing I like about the mechanics in it is that it's, because it's relatively simple, and the tools that it gives you are all about creating your own stuff, right? Like creating your own character, defining how your character works, and then creating adversaries, creating your setting. It allows you to have to get a understanding of the rules is going to be relatively simple, and then the focus of your attention can be on what's happening in the game, in the conspiracies and in whatever else, right? Like the wider world that you're interacting with the different factions and whatnot. So, and I like that stuff, because if I can focus more for a game like this, where I think the fun of it is not going to be like system mastery. The fun of it will be interacting with the world that you've created with those rules. It does a really good job of giving you just what you need without overburdening you with a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I found that was the problem when we tried to do Mage, which is the original Mage First Edition. You could have a cool idea, but actually the rules as written, it was like, oh, I can't use any magic. I just might as well put the brick and just sneak up behind the nosy guard and just boom.
And that's it. Honestly, that's a challenge that they've had. I still find with it. Phil Mercado has put together a cool, or Satiros. He has put together a really good primer for it. So that's a helpful thing to try and wrap your head around Mage, but it doesn't get around the fact that like Mage is a 800, like the Mage 20th edition is an 800 plus page book. It's a fucking monster. And
well, yeah. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts about Mage, and I think that like actually that's in some ways one of its virtues in a weird way, because like I think that like it's the one game I realize we're being casting magic makes you think like a wizard, because you really have to work through it a lot. Yeah, and it makes you actually it really puts you in that mindset, and it's like and I agree that not everybody wants to do that, so I can totally get why people just want to.
But that is a very small part. That doesn't take 800 plus pages to tell that thing. And I agree that like the Mage is one of the games that has like not only in my like gaming life too, but it really changed perspectives of how I think about things, because it's such a big ideas game. The trouble is making that into a game that's going to be at the table that everyone can be on board with.
No, I agree. It's not an accessible game, but I kind of sometimes don't want it to be.
It's part of the fun of that too. Yeah,
that's exactly.
I'm exploring Lex Occultum right now, so I totally understand. Like you are making this so hard for me to understand this game, but I'm still going to keep at it.
Well, it's like it's a game that like is in the benefit. The more of a liberal arts education you spend studying things like religion and philosophy, it actually improves the game. So like. Yeah. I'm okay with there being, every now and then we can have a game that's not accessible to the general public.
Cool and it's what I like about this is that to tie this back to Sigil Shadow is that there's a lot of the same ideas. At least there can be a lot of the same sort of things that you're seeing in World of Darkness types of games, but in a much easier to access format.
Oh, totally.
It loses like a lot of the granularity that you get from Mage or Werewolf or whatever else, or Vampire. You'll lose by having something this stream. But I kind of like that. Just like Jackals, the Osprey Games gives you, and I think this is a lot of the Osprey Games, is that they do a great job of giving you a good springboard for creating your own world or campaign.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Right, which is a really. I still think I don't know who the editor is for the game line, but I would be fascinated to hear an interview with them, because the decision-making process behind what games they've chosen to publish as part of Osprey's line, they're like consistently knocking these out of the park.
Maybe there could be a new segment for you, Kev. Interview with people in the game designer. I don't know. You've probably run more of these games than any channel. I'm trying to think. What other channels have run more Osprey games? Yeah, like
I've only run 2 on the channel so far, I think.
Yeah.
But in any event, it's a really fascinating game. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. If we're down players again, we'll know what I'll get this prep between now and next time. So if we're down players again, we will definitely dive in and meet these characters in play. Now we just need to guilt Arlen into making a character sheet for us in Roll20.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
wow, this is relatively affordable. Okay.
Oh yeah, like the games is not it's not most of the Osprey ones, they're not like, I think because they've got some kind of great publishing thing. You can also get them, I mean, depending how you feel about it, but you can get them on Amazon as well too, which makes them a lot more accessible.
Yeah, I see some used copies for like $21.50.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. So then with that, guys, let's bring this our first dabbling with Sigil and Shadow to an end. So for those listening at home, as is always the case, if you have any, or first off, thank you for joining us for this character creation and campaign creation session. As is always the case, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns regarding the setting, the game we're playing, or the publisher, I suppose, please don't hesitate to leave a comment in the comment section below, and we'll endeavor to reply in a timely fashion. You can also reach me on Twitter at Dungeon Musings, and by email at dungeonmusings@gmail.com. You can also find a link down below to the Dungeon Musings Discord server, where we have channels dedicated to most games we run on the channel, as well as chat about assorted games like Sigil and Shadow. There is also a link down below to something called Heroes Save Villages. That's the charity fundraising campaign that we run on the channel. It benefits the SOS Children's Villages International Charity, a really great organization active in over 130 countries that benefits over 80,000 orphaned and abandoned children. In the light of change or some recent geopolitical developments, their need for safe and supported environments for orphaned or abandoned kids to live in is more now than perhaps ever. But all money that is donated through that link goes directly to SOS Children's Villages International. None of it goes to the channel or any other middleman. And as a small way of saying thank you, for every $25 Canadian that you donate, we will give you one chance to win the grand prize or one of the other prizes in our next charity raffle. That takes place on December 1st, 2021. And if you've as well purchased any or made any donations since August 1st, you get a chance also to vote on what our next charity session will be at the end of October. We have 4 different horror scenarios in mind, involving 4 different games. Some of them are horror games, some of them are not. You can head over to the Dungeon Musings Discord server, and if you have donated since August 1st, 2021, or you will before October 1st, 2021, you can vote for which of those 4 games you want to see come to the channel, and then you can join us the week before and help outfit our heroes with some of the stuff they'll need to face the horrors that they will be dealing with in that adventure. You also will have a chance. So it gives you a chance to not only win some cool gaming stuff, to have a say on what happens on the channel, to help outfit the heroes that will be playing in that session. You also get a chance to help out some kids who could really use some help. So great stuff. And speaking of great stuff, a huge thank you to Brandon and Mo for diving in with no preparation into this very, very cool game and coming up with such interesting characters. So thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
Awesome. Then with that, we'll bring our session to a close. So for those listening at home, we hope we gave you a few hours to take your mind off of the troubles of our world and think of the troubles that our fledgling occult heroes will be facing in the coming days and weeks. We otherwise hope this finds you healthy, safe, and weathering the current crisis as well as can be expected. And until we see you again, stay safe, stay healthy, and happy gaming.
All hail the Glow Crowd.